anybody. Hello? Man. I can't find anybody. See, all during this time of this quarantine time, I just can't help but want to find people to hang out with them. Like, I miss playing football. That was awesome. Or like those times on Wednesday nights after dinner but before Bible study when we'd get like baseball games started, maybe a kickball game, or everybody would join in, but it was muddy and nasty some weeks, right? And like everybody would go out into the field anyways, and everybody would come out disgusting. It seemed like an inconvenience then. But man, I miss that. Hello? Can't find anybody. Why can't I find anybody? Everybody, it seems like, is hiding in their homes. Why is everyone hiding in their homes? Oh, yeah. Coronavirus. You know, the one thing out of this coronavirus that a lot of us, maybe we've talked about anxiety, we've talked about depression, we've talked about doubt and fear. But you know, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is the area of loneliness. Hello? Nobody. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you have seen people, but maybe it's been just for a little bit. Or maybe you're not like me. Maybe as things start to open back up, you start to see tons and tons of people, but the fact remains, things are not normal. Things are not like they used to be. Things can be lonely right now. So here's what I want to do tonight. I want to look at loneliness. So tonight in our broadcast and tomorrow when you get your Facebook the small group devotion that's based off of these Facebook videos, these are going to talk about, well, you guessed it, loneliness. See, a lot of us are lonely right now. We need some friends because raise your hand or comment or whatever if you're not exactly getting along the best with maybe your family right now, or maybe you're having trouble listening to parents, or maybe you're having trouble getting along with siblings, or all of the above. And you love your family, you do. You love them so much, but you miss your friends. And you love your family, but you miss your classmates. You love the people that you're around right now, but the same 4 or 5 people stuck in the same house together, well, that can create for interesting situations if they're stuck in the house for a long time, can't they? I mean, y'all know it. Y'all are living with it. So tonight, here's what I want to talk about. Talk about this idea of loneliness and what the Bible has to say about Christians and loneliness. So here's the big idea. A lot of us are lonely right now. And there may not be any clear end in sight to when we can get back to having those awesome kickball and baseball games in the field before Wednesday night supper, or after Wednesday night supper, or when you can get back to recess in school, or when we can get back to regular Bible studies in church, or when we can get back to having awesome birthday parties that you can go to, or when you can get back to going to all your clubs and all your sports and your friends and all those things. We may not have a clear path to get back to those things. But Scripture has an answer for helping combat this loneliness even while we're apart. Doesn't that sound intriguing? Doesn't that sound interesting? See, we're struggling with loneliness, and Scripture has a way to help combat it. So, here's what I want to do. We're going to go to 3 different Bible passages tonight, and they're going to talk about the same thing. And the same thing is going to be present in all 3 of these Scripture verses. So it's going to be talking about loneliness in these Scripture verses, but more specifically, it's going to be talking about what we as Christians are supposed to be doing, well, when we're together. And so when we're together, it's less likely to struggle with loneliness, right? Because More people together equals less opportunity for loneliness. Now, you could still be lonely. You could be in a crowd and still be lonely. But if you're interacting with the crowd, you're having a great time, you're with your friends, you're doing all the fun stuff, all the good stuff, you're not going to be as lonely. Well, there's no crowds right now. Scripture tells us what we're supposed to be doing when there are crowds. And this thing that we're supposed to be doing when there are crowds can be done even without a crowd. So let me recap all that for you in a nice simple sentence. Tonight we're going to be looking at something that Christians are supposed to be doing when they're together. But it can be done even when we're not together. And that thing helps out a lot with loneliness. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up in prayer. We're going to look at 3 different Bible passages. And then, after we get done, after you get your small group devotion, you're going to be able to go in that devotion, and it's going to be a super practical one. You're going to lay out what you can do with this one thing that we're going to talk about. All right, let me open this up in prayer. God, I love you. God, I thank you for who you are. I ask that you would be with this Bible study, all the boys and girls that are watching right now, all the students that may be struggling with loneliness right now, all the people that are hurting, they need companionship. I ask that you would be with them. I ask that you would help them see this one thing that Christians are supposed to do when they're together, but can also do even when they're not together physically. Show us that tonight, God. Give us the strength to do it. Give us creative and interesting ideas and new ways of doing it, so that you, through this, can help us with maybe the loneliness that we're talking about tonight. I ask these things in your precious, most holy name I pray. Amen. All right, boys and girls. So, first passage is in Romans chapter 1. Now, chapter 1 is, of course, the what chapter? The first chapter. So, naturally, it's going to be introducing the book. So, Paul is the writer of Romans, and he is introducing the book. So, in his introduction, he's talking about how he wants to be with the people in Rome. Romans. Exactly. All right, you get the point. So, introduction, book of Romans, he's talking about what he wants to do with the people. Now, remember, Paul with the people. We're talking about when people are together, when Christians are together, what they're supposed to be doing. Let's look what Paul says in Romans chapter 1. It's going to be on the screen for you so that you can follow along. All right, follow along with me. Romans chapter 1. Beginning in verse 11. For I long to see you. That's pretty relevant today, isn't it? Paul is not with the Romans right now. He's far away, and he wants to come visit them. Now, we're still in the same county, but it can feel like we're a million miles away, can't it? Because we're longing to see each other. We want to be back together. We want to be back with our friends. All right, so Paul's on to something here with us. For I long to see you, that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. So he wants to see them. He's longing to be with them so that he can give them something. This is going to be the one thing we're going to talk about. So, here's what is going to happen. Paul wants to give some spiritual gift to them. So that, here's verse 12, that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine. All right, recapping. Verse 11, he wants to be with them so he can give them something. And this something is going to encourage them by each other's faith. So they're going to do something that is going to encourage them while they're together. Both their faith and his faith is going to work together to encourage everybody. So, what is that one thing? Jump over to Hebrews chapter number 10. This is another passage about what we're supposed to be doing together. This is also talking about faith. So this is a different book, but this particular part is still talking about the same thing that Paul in the intro of Romans is talking about. faith, and that faith is going to lead to that one thing that they're supposed to be doing while they're together. Let's read about it. Hebrews chapter 10. All right, verse 24. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works. Here's the meeting together part. You ready? Verse 25. Not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day, capital D, drawing near. What's this saying? Well, verse 25 says, don't neglect to meet together. All right, here's a side bit. Are we meeting together right now in person? No. Does that mean we're neglecting to meet together? Well, in person, yeah. But there's a lot of ways that we can meet together not in person, right? We have these Facebook videos that we can all tune in. That's a little bit of one-way communication. You're just listening right now. The only way I can hear you back is if you comment back on this post. But then we also have another form. We have a way of do two-way where you can talk back. What is that? Our phones. And when do you get on the phones? Particularly on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. Your parents get on them on Sundays. Zoom calls. So, we're not necessarily completely abandoning meeting together. So you still should come together so you're not like the people in this verse that are not meeting together. But did you catch the one thing that they were supposed to be doing? It's kind of the same in both of these passages. Both in Romans chapter 1, he's going to be giving them a gift so that they can do something. What's that gift? But in Hebrews, it's considering how to stir up. Remember, when you're cooking in the kitchen and you want to stir the pot, what happens if you don't stir it? All the gunk and the stuff sits at the top, all those spices, and if you want to get it all back in the pot, what do? You stir it up, and that makes it better, right? Stir up one another to, what's the good thing? What do you get to stir the pot up to get to? What's the end result? Love and good works. All right, here's the last passage, and then we'll talk about what this one thing is that we do when we get together. James chapter 1, verse 27. It's just one verse. Religion, no, that's what we practice. If you're a Christian, you're part of the Christian religion, the Christian faith. Religion that is pure, not fake religion. Undefiled, not jacked up religion before God. The Father is this. So when we meet together to practice our religion, if it's not jacked up, if it's pure, if it's awesome, if it's not fake religion, it's gonna look like this when we meet together. Are you ready? Here's the one thing that's a little bit more obvious this time. To visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So, Nate, you're crazy. You just said 3 different things, and you're saying they're one thing? Well, look at it. In Romans, he's giving them a gift. He wants to be with them, a spiritual gift. He wants to show them their faith. In Hebrews, we're supposed to be pushing each other to love and good works. And in James, we're supposed to be visiting orphans and widows in their affliction. So in all 3 of those passages, what's the one big category you think that we can fit all 3 of those under? They all interact with each other. All of them are dealing with us Christians talking and interacting and conversing and playing and all the above with. All 3 involve us hanging out with other Christians. But all 3 tell us to do something. What's the one category that all 3 of those things fit in? Well, serving. So when we get together, we're supposed to serve one another. In James, we serve one another by visiting orphans in their affliction. In the book of Hebrews, we serve one another by stirring each other up to love and to good works. And then in Romans, Paul says we stir up one another so that we long to see each other and we're encouraged by each other's faith. We encourage each other in the faith, that's serving. We serve the widows and orphans, people who have needs. And then we serve by stirring each other up to good works and in love. All those things fall in the category of serving our fellow Christians, serving our fellow people together, serving even those around us. Jesus says that everybody is your neighbor. We're supposed to love and serve everybody just as he served and loved us. So, what's the one thing that we're supposed to do when we come together? Serve one another in love, in helping out with their afflictions and the stuff they need, food, clothing, shelter, all the above, and to ask each other, how's your faith? All those things are serving. So here's where we connect the dots. Here's where we bring this back to loneliness. Hello? Nobody's still here. So, how do we do this one thing even when there are no people around? Well, we still can serve people. And here's what starts to naturally happen. You can still serve people virtually. You can send them a text. You can call them. You can write them a note. You can go volunteer and say, Mom, Dad, I want to go to such and such's front yard and do yard work. You can go and you can throw goodies on their front door and say, hey, here's a bag of candy. Catch front door, and then they find it out later. You can go and you can serve by Zooming and saying, hey, how are you doing with your school? I'm doing okay. Can I help you with anything? You can serve by saying, Mom, Dad, I want to go and I want to make a call to such and such. Can we go over there and visit on their front porch with them 6 feet away, or maybe even stay in your cars? But you can still serve those people around you. You can still serve even when we're not together physically. Here's the awesome thing that's going to happen. This loneliness that we're experiencing, as you're serving one another, that's going to start to go away. You're going to be around each other. You're going to be doing stuff, well, not in person, but you're going to be so focused on other people that loneliness that you're thinking, because loneliness is just thinking about how you, yourself, I, me, is all by myself. But when you're thinking of others, you, they, we, there's no room for loneliness anymore. So when you get to serving, when you get to doing all those things, cards, throwing candy at people's doors, doing yard work for them, visiting on the front porch, making calls, all that good stuff, that loneliness, you don't think about being lonely anymore. You think about, wow, that was awesome. And then maybe, that's not why you're doing it, but maybe if everybody does this, somebody does that for you too. But then your focus is, what can I do to serve even when we're apart? So boys and girls, the lesson this week is going to be geared towards very, very, very practical nuts and bolts, what you can do to serve other people even when you're not apart. Not going to be a lot of scripture study because we did most of the scripture study here tonight. But what can you do to serve even when you're not apart? Download the devotion. It'll give you nuts and bolts help on what you can do to help serve others. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to pray. I'll see a lot of you Thursday. Be sure to join in Thursday. If you're going to join in Thursday and you haven't heard from me today, parents, be sure to let me know your student is going to be there, because it's going to be a special thing and it requires a little bit of prep work, but we got to know that your student is going to be joining with us then. So we'll see you Thursday, and let me pray. God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for what you've done. I ask that for those of us that are struggling with loneliness, that you would help us to think about how to serve others. Help us to think about what we can do to make sure that we have our mind in the right place of focusing on other people, so that we can see what the benefit is of going around and helping others, and that eventually that drives those lonely thoughts away. I thank you for what you've done. I thank you that you give us help, and you give us this opportunity to go and serve others. You give us the feeling of satisfaction and drive the lonely thoughts away, God. That doesn't happen without you. Help us to remember that. Thank you for your love. Thank you for who you are. In your precious, most holy name,